Hi class, this is Frank. I'm the guy who's supposed to be guiding you through your e-commerce class. And I'm doing this post today because I wanted to give you some feedback on your SWOT analysis. I've read your SWOT analysis and some were good, some were, and some needed some improvement. And where I wanted to focus most of this post today is on your strengths and opportunities and really give you some more clarity as to what that is, what does that mean. And I think for the most part, you guys did a good job in understanding your weaknesses and the threats. So you don't need any help there. However, the strengths and opportunities are a different story. So let's get right into strengths. What are strengths? What I saw was you guys saying, I could, for example, if you were doing a restaurant, I could serve this kind of food, and I can do this, and I can do that, and I can cater, and those aren't really strengths. That's just things that you do. And if everybody else is doing it, is that really a strength? No, that isn't. Strengths are something that set you personally, your company, your group apart from everybody else. You have this competitive advantage. And this is what you're starting your business with, as opposed to having an idea and then trying to make strengths out of that. Start with your strengths first. So what would be a strength? All right, so that's where we can get into it. Now, again, strengths are something that gives you a personal competitive advantage and sets you apart from your competition. I'll give you an example of one. Apple. Apple has a lot of strengths, and we all are familiar with them. But one of those strengths is that they're a very creative company, right? Powerful strength. Another strength of theirs is they have very strong brand loyalty. That's another big strength. A strength could also be a set of talents that you have, that you're really good at something, right? So, for example, Warren Buffett, one of the best investors of our time, has a very specific set of talents. He has a talent of being able to spot real opportunities with undervalued companies, and then he buys them. And it's such a strong strength that everybody else is watching to see what Warren Buffett does, and then they try to do the same thing. So obviously that's a very powerful strength. Another strength could be that you have a very specific set of knowledge that nobody else has. You have more knowledge than nobody else has. You can do things better than somebody else. A strength that most people don't think about is you have the ability to tolerate risk. And what does that mean? So, for example, if you were going to open a company, you have the ability to tolerate risk. You can buy things without worrying about going under. You can do things without worrying about going under. The ability to tolerate risk is a very powerful strength. You can outlast your competitors. So for example, Walmart can tolerate a lot of risk versus the mom and pop little convenience store, right? So they can stand to lose money longer than the mom and pop store. They have a higher tolerance for risk. So therefore, it's a strength. Being well-funded is a good strength, right? You have a lot of backing, a lot of capital. Being well-connected in the industry is a very big strength as well. So, for example, if you're going to be starting your own home building company or something like that, right, and you know all kinds of contractors and subcontractors and developers, and you have a good rapport with them, and they wouldn't mind helping you out, you're probably pretty well connected. So I want you guys to really understand the difference between really what I'm seeing and what is a real strength. Next, we can move on to opportunities. Now, opportunities, again, isn't just things that you do, right? So if you're opening a restaurant, is catering a real opportunity? No, it's just another revenue stream, because everybody does catering. Every restaurant, a small and pop restaurant, loves to do catering. And big companies doing catering too. So is that an opportunity? No. It's a saturated market, and it's a possibility, but it's just another revenue stream. Let's clarify what an opportunity is. Opportunities are things that you see that you could make money on, create a business from. Okay. So an opportunity could be a gap in the market. So to give an example is there's a company, CarMax. CarMax is a well-established company now, but they started their business off an opportunity. They saw a gap in the market, right? So there was a definite gap between dealers that are out selling cars, right, and private parties selling cars. There's nobody in the middle sort of filling that niche, right? So they opened up their company and they started selling cars that were less expensive than the dealer, and they were offering you more than what you could to buy your car than what you could get from the dealer as well. And they definitely filled that market space. That was a gap in the market. Another opportunities you can watch for are growing trends. So things that are becoming really popular. Let's use Apple again. So Apple, being the creative company that they are, most recently came up with the iPad, right? They created a whole new market, and all of a sudden there's this big craze about tablets now. So all the other companies are doing their version of the tablet, trying to do it better than Apple. Well, because there's a lot of opportunity, because it's a very popular and growing trend. There's also an opportunity is that there's a high need, high demand for something. That is a definite opportunity. So if we were to use the before the housing collapse, right, between 2000 and 2006, there was a huge housing boom, and we all got to experience and live through this time. And during that time, there was a high demand for housing. And therefore, because of the high demand for housing, there were all these spin-offs. Anything that was related to housing, real estate, was just booming. So you didn't have to be in the real estate industry. You could be in Windows, and you benefited from that. So we saw a lot of growth, a lot of opportunity in that time frame. For example, like Lowe's and Home Depot really had major expansion during then because there was a huge housing boom. And then at the same time, there was also a lot of people, a lot of do-it-yourselfers trying to improve their homes as well. And so a lot of spin-offs from that, and that all came from a high demand of a product or a trend, right? Also, you could be looking at needs, things that people need. For example, if you came up with a medicine that cured cancer, well, there's a huge need for that, because if you don't have it, you basically die. So, that would be a real opportunity because there's a need in the market for it. Okay, so what other opportunities can you spot? You can also spot areas that are not being served, sort of like what CarMax did, right? They looked for an area that wasn't being served and said, hey, this might be an opportunity. You could also look for customers that are not being served well enough, okay? And there's the majority of small businesses are formed from former employees. So let me explain. You were working for a company and you realize that the company isn't doing as good as a job as you think you can do, or isn't, is completely neglecting a whole group of customers, or, and you can capitalize on that. You already have a good set of strengths, you know the industry pretty well, you're already pretty well connected, and you go out and you start your company from that. Well, that's an opportunity too. I want you guys to be thinking of opportunities in that way. Okay, lead with those first. Don't have an idea and then try to build strengths around it. I also want you guys to understand that, there may not be an opportunity after you do this analysis. You may not have any strengths after you do this analysis, and that's okay. Sometimes it's absolutely fine to walk away from a business and become detached from it, because you save all that money and time. I've had experience when I consulted with a restaurant, so we'll do a case study on this. I did a consultation for a restaurant, and this guy was a very creative chef. He was good at what he did, made great food, and he specialized in sushi. He knew his stuff pretty well. He had a pretty good following, so had deep knowledge in a particular area. He had a good set of customers already. Those are pretty good strengths. He saved up some money, another strength that he had. Well, let's finish the analysis with the opportunity. Was there opportunity there? Is there a growing trend in Riverside for sushi? Sure is. Yeah. So that's an opportunity. It's kind of weak. Let's finish the analysis with weaknesses. He had absolutely no business experience or background. He just was an artist. That's what he was. So he didn't know how to hire people. He didn't know how to communicate with people. A definite weakness. In terms of threats, you could walk outside and 2 blocks over, there was another sushi restaurant. You could throw a stone and hit 10 sushi restaurants within the area. So he had a lot of major direct competitors with him. And so what ended up happening? Well, he opened for a while and he closed down. Did he have strengths? Yeah, he sure did. He had a couple of strengths. Did he have opportunity? He had some opportunity. Were the strengths and opportunities strong enough to outweigh the weaknesses and threats? Obviously not, because he's not around anymore. And I really want you guys to, kind of incorporate that into your thinking, because he would be much better off today than had he not started the business, right? I think that was a really steep learning curve. I think he saved like $60,000 himself, which is an impressive sum to save for an individual, over the course of a few years. He really skimped, and scrounged. And he ended up borrowing another $300,000. So now he's in debt, $300,000 just to keep his restaurant open, for another month, another day, and ultimately it's gone now. So had he done a proper SWOT analysis at the get-go, he still would have had his $60,000 and may not have opened that restaurant. I myself have written several business plans, and there was always something in the back of my head that said, hey, you know what, don't do this. And in hindsight, I'm so glad I've just shelved those business plans and never did anything with them, because I think ultimately my strengths were not strong enough, and the opportunity just wasn't strong enough to overcome the weaknesses and the threats. So remember, if you're going to be starting with anything, you're going to start with your strengths, and you're going to start with the opportunities first. If you have real strengths and real opportunities, it's much easier to find funding, to find people who will back you, to find people who will support you when you can qualify, the opportunity, the business, right? Is there opportunity in another restaurant, for example? So let's take a look at that quickly. Well, restaurants are a very mature industry. It's also very saturated. There's one opening and closing every week. Can people make money? Yes, they can. That's why people still open restaurants, and they're opening all the time. But it depends on your set of strengths. What do you have to bring to the table? Do people really want what you have to give? So I would like to see you guys apply this in your final feasibility project, okay? A true SWOT analysis. And, if your strengths are not strong enough, then figure out a way to strengthen that and then put that into your plan, right? Identify that. If the opportunities are a bit weak, identify that. And, maybe start to look elsewhere to say, well, maybe we can take this plan somewhere else and look in a different area. The other part I wanted to talk to you guys about too was I'd like to see e-commerce incorporated into your business a little bit more. A few of you guys did this already, but most of you guys are kind of saying, oh, I have this idea for a restaurant, or I have this idea for a salon, or this or that, and I don't see the side of e-commerce in there. Like, well, that's what the nature of this course is. So, I want you to incorporate e-commerce into your business model some way, somehow, okay? E-commerce could give you a competitive advantage, and if it does, that's great. Then you are more competitive than the other companies out there. That's fantastic. But let me make one point about this. Some people are saying, yeah, we can incorporate a website and incorporate e-commerce into our business, and our strength is social media, or our opportunity is social media. And social media has been, all the craze and all the rave lately for the past couple of years, maybe few now anyway. and people are making all kinds of money from it. But let's get something straight about social media and what it is and what it isn't. Can social media help your business? Absolutely, it's great because it's free, right? But does social media necessarily translate into customers? No, it does not. It doesn't do that. You cannot open a Facebook page and then sit there and ask, where are all the customers? There's a gap. There's a time lapse between the two. What it does do, however, is it does create what's called a consumer. And that's different than a customer. A consumer just says, I like what you have to say. I like your Facebook page. I like your website. I like your social media. I like your blog. This is cool, right? And then, you have the hopes that it will possibly turn into a customer. So keep that in mind when you guys are saying, yeah, we can have a social media page and that makes us more competitive. Everybody's got a social media page. It's easy to do, and everybody seems to be doing it. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it'll be translating directly into dollar signs or into customers for you. And it's definitely not something to base your business off of. It's not there to supplement your business. So I hope this helped you guys. I look forward to reading your SWOT analysis, and good luck.